right into item B, executive session, possibly for Smith versus Arizona Racing Commission. Do we have any updates on this?
Can you hear me?
Miss Lena? Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I'm here. If you'd like to go into executive session, we can discuss any updates I have for you and discuss our next steps.
Thank you, ma'am. I'll move that we enter executive session.
Second.
Thank you. I have a motion for executive session by Chair Coolidge, second by Commissioner Gray. I will do the roll call. Chair Coolidge,
Yes.
Commissioner Olson,
Yes.
Commissioner Gray.
Yes.
Thank you. The time's 10:32 and we'll enter executive session.
Well, that was quick.
Max, go ahead.
Great. I will call roll. Looks like all commissioners are in attendance. Chair Coolidge,
Present.
Commissioner Gray,
Present.
and Commissioner Olson.
Present.
Thank you. We have a quorum. The time is 10:39, and we have entered the second open session.
Thank you. I will move that the Assistant Attorney General
Continue as instructed.
continue as instructed.
I'll second that.
Thank you. I have a motion by Chair Coolidge and a second by Commissioner Gray. Chair Coolidge,
Yes.
Commissioner Gray,
Yes.
and Commissioner Olson.
Yes.
Thank you. That motion passes.
Thank you. We'll,
Mr.
go-
Chair, I would just also like to point out, again, nothing on the Sims versus Sims, and I do believe we have briefs that are due soon, and we've not heard anything regarding that from our council, nor did we have it on the agenda today to meet with the council to go over the Sims versus Sims. And I do think it's very important, as this case has cost the taxpayers of Arizona millions of dollars.
Yes, sir. We will discuss with the department and see if we can agendize for the next meeting. We'll move to action item C1, request for reconsideration of Rillito Park Foundation for a 3-year racing permit. Would look to the department for any information additionally that is not in our packets that you feel we need to know. I know that Rillito has been working diligently to get all of this stuff done and get back approved. So interested in hearing from the department.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. Regarding Rito's permit application, the division conducted its due diligence and had a financial consultant reviews Rito's finances. The consultant's findings were that Rito was insolvent. At that particular time, Rito had less than $1,000 in its bank account. The department is aware that of the importance of horse racing in southern Arizona. Many horsemen and supporting citizens look forward to the annual race meets hosted by Rito Park Foundation. Therefore, the department has worked tirelessly with Rito staff to protect Rito, to project Rito's revenue streams, contributions, donations, purse money, state and federal grant funds that are being provided to Rito. Those estimates have come into the ballpark of 900,000+. The department's original estimation of Rito's cost to operate the race meet was 1.2 million. Therefore, the division strongly recommends that Rito tighten their belts and be extremely vigilant and responsible and not expend needlessly. Rito has a responsibility to timely pay the winning horsemen and all vendors providing services for the race meet. With this being said, I recommend with concern and reservation that the commission approve Rito's permit application and race dates. Additionally, I want to openly inform Rito that on an ongoing basis, the division will scrutinize their financial status and expect that Rito meet all their obligations and more so adopt generally accepted accounting principles to correct the past few years of disarray. Rito needs to be proactive and creative to generate revenue on an ongoing basis to ensure its viability for future race meets. And that's all I have for you at this time, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Director. Really appreciate the thoughtfulness and the response, as well as the department's efforts to dive in here and protect these dollars and protect racing as we know it down in southern Arizona. Mr. Author, I know that you've signed to speak to this. How about 3 minutes?
No, I didn't sign up to speak on this topic. The agenda just came out and added Rito as item number 1 for some reason. The agenda item never responded to. Item number 1 was is now item number 2. So the numbering's going to be all messed up, but
Super. Look forward to it.
thank you.
Appreciate the response. Do we have a representative from Rillito?
Thought Mike Weiss was going to be joining.
Guess not. Any questions from my fellow commissioners?
No questions. I do know, I did speak with Mike Weiss earlier this morning. They have been doing as they typically do before a meet. They are able to sell tables and get all sorts of other commitments. And it looks like they have been doing a good job in raising the funds that they're going to need to make this a successful meet.
Chair, I'd like to make a motion to move to executive session.
Second.
Thank you. I have a motion by Commissioner Olson, a second by Chair Coolidge to move into executive session. Chair Coolidge,
Yes.
Commissioner Olson,
Yes.
and Commissioner Gray.
Yes.
Thank you. The time is 10:45 and we'll move into executive session.
Jeez. Jesus Maria.
Looks like all commissioners are in attendance. I will call the roll. Chair Coolidge,
Present.
Commissioner Gray,
Present.
and Commissioner Olson.
Present.
Thank you. The time is 10:50 and we are entered our third open session.
Thank you. Mr. Weiss, did you want to speak for a minute? Might try that mute button again.
Okay, so Mike is coming here.
I don't know why they couldn't hear me. Okay. Am I on?
Yep, you might kill the other device that you're next to.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. This is Michael Weiss representing Rillito Park. I'm really excited about trying to get this upcoming meet open. We did abbreviate our dates. We started with 19 race days and we went down to 12 to create a power race meet. I think with the purses that we have, we're going to have something special. The town of Tucson is very excited. Sponsorships have been pouring in. We're up to over $165,000 in pledges. The University of Arizona has extended their relationship with us, not only with the RTIP, Racetrack Industry Program, but they've also including their veterinary program, their professors and students involved in our equine wellness program. We are doing tote testing today. The place is clean. Horses are training. Employees are training. We are ready to roll. And I really appreciate the fact that we can get this up and going again.
Thank you, sir. The only notion I want to make to you is to take under consideration what the director discussed previously on his concern on the funds and being creative on making sure that we do the right thing by the funds that are coming in to Rillito. So just hope that you guys appreciate that and also know that we will be keeping a vigilant eye on those dollars.
We appreciate it very much. We actually have put some new measures in place with controllers and accounting and just some new management procedures, and we are ready to go forward. And I'm very certain we will please the commission.
Appreciate it. Any other questions for my commissioners?
Nothing from me.
Otherwise, I'll move that we approve the request for consideration of the Rillito Park Foundation 3-year racing permit application for fiscal years 21, 22, and it looks like 23.
I'll second that.
Thank you. I have a motion by Chair Coolidge and a second by Commissioner Garay. I will call the roll. Chair Coolidge,
Yes.
Commissioner Garay,
Yes.
and Commissioner Olson.
Yes.
Thank you. The consideration of Rillito Park Foundation for a 3-year racing permit application is approved.
I'll also
Thank
move
you.
that. Yes, sir. I'll also move that we approve the race dates within the application for that 3-year permit.
I'm just going down to read them out.
The 2021 race dates.
Yeah, it's just I know so far down in our packet.
The 2022 race dates, I think 2021 is concluded.
Excuse
Yeah.
me, 2022. Thank you.
Yeah, it would be February 26th, 27th, March 5th, 6th, 12th, 13th, 19th, 20th, 26th, 27th, April 2nd and 3rd of 2022, and I will second that.
Thank you. I have a motion by Chair Coolidge, a second by Commissioner Garay. I will call the roll. Chair Coolidge,
Yes.
Commissioner Garay,
Yes.
and Commissioner Olson.
Yes.
Thank you. Those 2022 race dates for Rillito Park are approved.
Thank you. We'll move to item C2, the request for Turf Paradise's off-track betting facility at Padre Murphy's, 4338 West Bell Road, Glendale, Arizona, 85308. Looks like we have a bunch of people scheduled to speak on this, provided my numbers are accurate. We'll start with Mr. Sims or Mr. Johnson.
Chairman, Commissioners, this is Dave Johnson. Thank you for allowing me to speak on this topic. What you have before you is a request for an OT for Turf Paradise to take over OTB operations at Padre Murphy's. You have a situation where Padre Murphy's was sold to a new owner. His name is David Gill. That owner has met with Turf Paradise and has decided that he would like Turf Paradise to return and put the OTB operations back in over there at Padre Murphy's. This is exactly the same thing that you had happen last year, where Turf Paradise was operating Padre Murphy's for several years, and the owner, Tom Boyle, sold it to two gentlemen, Larry and Ray. And Larry and Ray decided that they had met with Arizona Downs and decided they wanted to switch their OTB operator to Arizona Downs instead of Turf Paradise. So this is the exact same scenario you have that you approved last year for Arizona Downs. You just have a new owner who has taken over the OTB operation, the sports bar, and wants Turf Paradise to return.
Understood. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I do have a question because I think the last meeting, the director put out word that he was going to be sending out to all the permittees the rules and what the requirements would be regarding change of ownership of OTBs. And I'm just curious if that information did get out to the permittees.
Commissioner, that particular letter has not been sent out. However, I have had discussions with Mr. Sims on this particular matter, and it is being handled appropriately.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure it was being handled the way it was going to be handled going forward. Thank you.
Mr. Gill, are you signed up to speak for C2?
Yes, I am.
Go ahead, sir.
So I just wanted to introduce myself. My name's David Gill. I am the new owner of Padre Murphy's. In somewhat of a quick acquire of this company over the last month and a half, I have met with Turf Paradise. And after careful consideration and doing my due diligence, I'd like to bring their operation back to Padre Murphy's. So basically, I just wanted to introduce myself. I know you can't see me on the screen. My camera's not working, but I would like to let everybody know. I appreciate your time, and I would like Padres to continue operations with OTB as Turf Paradise being the operational end of that.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate your time jumping on. Mr. Author, did you sign to speak for C2? Just making sure I didn't miss you on this.
Yes, I did.
Go ahead, sir.
Let me give you a brief history that was not indicated by Mr. Johnson. A few months ago, when Tom Boyle decided to sell his business at Padre Murphy's, he sold to Larry Delaney, and at that same time, the Turf Paradise contract for OTB's provision at Padre Murphy's expired. So when Mr. Delaney came to us and asked us to take over the operation, he was not burdened by any contract whatsoever. And he came to us and we bid on the project, and he went with us and we presented it to you and you approved it. That's what happened last time. Mr. Johnson says this is essentially the same thing, exactly the same thing, which isn't true. When we signed up with Mr. Delaney, we signed up with a 3-year contract. And when Mr. Gill purchased the business a month and a half ago from Mr. Delaney, he purchased a business that had an existing lease, a 3-year lease with us as part of the assets of his business. So yesterday morning, for the very first time, Mr. Gill called and says, I want to switch. He didn't give a reason. He didn't say what had happened. He didn't even tell us what kind of financial incentives he received from Turf Paradise. He just said, I'd like to switch and I'm on the agenda tomorrow. And we said, you can't. We have a contract. We have an existing lease, a real estate lease to lease a space in your shop for 3 years. If you'd like to talk with us about any issues that you're having with us, you should know this weekend was probably the biggest weekend we've ever had at your place. But regardless, and then to top it off, he accepted February's rent. So we paid Mr. Gill rent for February. He was well aware of the lease. We've been talking to him for some time. It's illegal for him to breach the lease at this point and say you're out. Consider if you were renting an apartment and somebody bought the apartment building and he walked to all the renters and said, oh, by the way, your leases are terminated tomorrow. You have to leave. The owner of the apartment building is quite within his rights to wait until the leases have expired. And then one by one, he can do what he wants to do. But you can't, and it's sort of real estate 101, you can't just walk in with an existing lease that you've just purchased a building and say, oh, by the way, you're all out. Also, that we're leaving the operation open. Another difference the last time was that Turf Paradise walked into Padre Murphy's when Larry owned it and closed it down. So Larry Delaney had nobody there. He had no signal. He didn't have anything, and he had an expired contract. And we came in and started him up again. I believe they also canceled Larry's a license at the city of Phoenix, and we had to go, you may recall, back to the city of Phoenix and get approval to take over that operation. So there is no comparison whatsoever between the two activities. We've got an existing contract. It's enforceable. The commission does not want to get into the middle of this and approve the breach of a contract, to approve a tortious interference with contract, and you ought to deny their request. Thank you.
This is Dave Gill again. Can I jump in real quick?
Chair Coolidge, you're on mute.
Thank you, Commissioner. Mr. Gill, go ahead.
I just want to kind of touch on what Mr. Author just said there. Charlie Billingsley showed up yesterday late in the day and just dropped a paper off basically right in front of me and didn't say anything about it. I was never presented a lease during the sale and purchase of this business that said there was any lease for Arizona Downs to be in here. The only thing that Tom Author, Charlie Billingsley, and Joe Jackson let me know months ago, or a month and a half ago when I did purchase the place, was that they did pay rent and it was a percentage-based lease and that they were always a month behind. So the February check that I received at the end of, in the first week of February was for January. So that's how it was presented to me. I was never given a lease, was never given any terms. The only thing that I got was yesterday, and they are right. I did call them and give them a heads up. We're on the agenda for what I wanted to do with my business and how I want to move forward with my business. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you, sir. I would move that we enter executive session.
Second.
Thank you. I have a motion by Chair Coolidge and a second by Commissioner Olson. I will call the roll. Chair Coolidge,
Yes.
Commissioner Olson,
Yes.
and Commissioner Gray.
Yes.
Thank you. We will enter executive session.
They must know the difference between a terminated lease and an existing lease. The lawyer checks your lease.
Looks like all commissioners are in attendance. I will call the roll. Chair Coolidge,
Present.
Commissioner Gray,
Here.
and Commissioner Olson.
Present.
Thank you. The time is 11:10 and we will begin our fourth open session.
I'm going to run through a couple of the hands raised. It says unknown, but I think that's you, Mr. Johnson. Is that correct?
I'm not sure, but I have my hand raised, so I'll go ahead and.
It is. Let's just take a couple of minutes. I don't want to go back and forth on a legal basis, but
No, and I don't want to get into a back and forth. You know, what you have here is an application for an OTB approval. What Dave Arthur did bring up was that the history of Padre Murphy's, and that after Tom Boyle had sold it to Larry Delaney, we had continued operating there under our contract. Rudy Casillas at that racing commission meeting for the next approval of Padre Murphy's confirmed that that was all done in error, that should not have taken place, that a new contract had to be signed and should have been signed. So all of everything that we were operating there without a contract with the new owner was invalid. When a new owner takes over, you have to get a new contract with them. This is the same exact scenario. Mr. Gill purchased the facility. Arizona Downs has a contract with Larry Delaney. They do not have a contract with Mr. Gill. We have a contract with Mr. Gill. After meeting with him, everything is in order. Recommend that you would approve this. Thank you.
thank you, sir. Mr. Billingsley, take a couple of minutes, sir.
Hi, I just wanted to correct what Mr. Gill said. I did not show up and drop off a piece of paper last night. I showed up and I met with him, and I apologized if we had done anything wrong to make him unhappy with our service. I explained to him that what I was leaving him was an extension from the existing lease we had. If you look at it, it starts with the lease that we had with the dates that we had with the previous owner, and it only continues for the original term. And all the details of the lease are consistent with those adjustments. And it is unique to any other lease we've signed. And we did discuss the rent structure, and he has acknowledged in writing that it was rent. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Author, quick rebuttal.
Thank you. With respect to what Mr. Johnson had to say a few moments ago, when we switched from Tom Boyle to Larry Delaney, what Mr. Casillas required was Larry Delaney to get certified and to get permitted and to get approved, whatever was necessary, whether through the city of Phoenix or through us or through the racing department. Similarly, Mr. Gill had to be approved, and he made application to the racing division, and he's licensed and permitted, and that's fine. With respect to whether or not there's a necessity for another contract, that's really a contract issue, and I've already explained to you that we have an existing contract with the underlying seller, and that contract flowed forward with the purchase. So we're going to meet with Mr. Gill, assuming you deny this application. We'll sit with him and we'll say, what can we do to improve our service? What was it that motivated you to want to switch? If it's a big check from Turf Paradise, I don't know if we'll be able to match it, but we'll be willing to sit with him. But in the meantime, we're going to keep the signal open, and we're going to let him operate as well as he can down there. We've brought in brand new equipment. We've installed, I think, 20 new and larger televisions than were there when Turf Paradise was the operator. So it's a beautiful facility now. And we're ready to go. And so it makes no sense for you to approve something and get tangled up in this legal battle, which Turf Paradise can't win. Thank you.
Mr. Director and Mr. Gill, I see your hand raised. I'm going to ask a quick question, then I'll pivot over to your question. Mr. Director, we have all the appropriate documentation. I skipped my first step, which was to ask the department for any additional information and that we have all the appropriate documents for this request.
That is correct, sir.
Mr. Gill, go ahead and take a couple minutes.
Yeah, it's just going to be quick, everyone. I just wanted to, I'm kind of caught in the middle of this. I get it. It's my business. But at the end of the day, I just want my business to run seamless and as successful as possible. That's all I want everybody to know is, there's a lot being said, but at the end of the day, I've got to run my business how I need to run my business. And that's it. Thank you for your time.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
This is Jerry Sims. I had raised my hand or signed up rather, just talk. May I speak for a moment?
Yes, sir.
Before this process started, I checked with Director Casillas, and he told me that you have to have a new contract. The old contract you can't utilize that. You have to come in for a new one. To just quickly respond to what Dave Arthur said about apartments, if you had apartments, it's a whole different situation. I owned a lot of apartments. I built them. I can tell you, and I have a shopping centers. That's my business. I can tell you that this is different because we have a regulatory body where we don't have that in real estate. So I spoke to Director Casillas. He said there has to be a new contract, and that's why we went about it. Thank you for giving me the time, Chairman.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Johnson, go ahead.
Thank you. And I'll be very brief. I just want to make it clear the statutes regarding OTB licenses are very clear. Licenses are not transferable from owner to owner. So whenever you have a sale of a new location to someone else, that license is no longer. So I just want to make that point.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Author.
I'm sorry, Chairman Coolidge, directors, commissioners, this is Tom Author calling. Just a couple things I'd like to bring up. Again, we did not make the original entree to any of the 3 OTBs we now have that Turf has. They all contacted us. Secondly, all those contracts had expired. The equipment was out and the licenses had been canceled. One of them was vacant for 5 or 6 months. So it's not analogous at all. Turf Paradise, and I was there when Mr. Sims called. While this was under contract, they actively sought this. We did not. We took your advice that don't poach these OTBs. So we did not. Turf had shut down. The license was gone. It's really not. And we have a lease in place. And that's just all there is to it. And to encourage Mr. Gill, who we like and is a fine guy, to break a lease by even entertaining this is going to lead people into a bit of a legal morass that I don't know that this commission wants to get involved in. So I think to say it's the same thing. Plus, you may recall when we finally got lease signed, Director Casillas told us we had to go back to the city, put up a sign, go back to the commission. In his words, change of permit requires new city approval. In this case, he simply is saying, we're going to put it on the agenda for approval. Why did we as a new permittee have to go jump through those hoops? And Turf doesn't. Yeah, they had it a while back, but they're still a new permittee. And why we have to go through all of this and they don't doesn't seem quite equitable. But beside that, we have a valid lease. We've checked with legal counsel, and somebody's encouraging this gentleman to breach that contract. And we're not going to go down without making sure the courts and everybody understands this is people are complicit in this violation and breach of this contract. That's really all I have to say. I'd take any questions if you have. It seems pretty clear cut to us.
Only a comment I would make to that is it sure would be nice if we were able to come together and find an agreement for OTBs, wouldn't it? All
Enforce the existing statute. Enforce the existing statute.
Thank you, Mr. Author. Mr. Gill, go ahead.
Thank you.
Just wanted to jump in there. Not that I want to bring anybody else into this conversation and they don't have to be in on it because I know it's on another point, but I have, the dogs running in here too. And I had to sign a new contract for Greyhound to be in here. So that's just food for thought. My last comment, and I'm staying out of it. Thank you guys again for your time.
Appreciate your input.
Chair,
Mr. Johnson. Oh, go ahead, Commissioner.
yeah, I just have a quick question for the department on the City of Phoenix approval. Is it the department's position that the past approval is effective, or can you elaborate on that, or if we have a new approval from the city, or just kind of touch on that point?
Yes, Commissioner Olson, this is Brian Duncan from the Department of Gaming. I have been in contact with the city to verify that their approval from 2021 is still valid. They have not gotten back to me, but said they would try and give me a call later on today to confirm it. But I have been in contact with the city to see if it is still valid or not.
Just hear correctly that we do not know at this point in time if that approval is valid?
That is correct. It is
Thank
in
you.
the packet. It is April of 2021.
Thank you. I just think it's sad that we're now treating our OTBs like 3K claimer races. This is just getting ridiculous.
Can I offer a suggestion? This is Jerry Sims.
Go ahead, Mr. Sims.
Perhaps we can approve it today, conditioned, as we've done before. In this case, be conditioned on having city approval.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate
We do have a contract from, I was just going to say, we have a contract since April of 21. It's not unusual for there to be more than one license on a facility. Dave Johnson can elaborate if you want to hear. But thank you.
Got it. And I see we have additional hands raised. I don't want to go back and forth on the legal back and forth. So if there's something additional to add, I'd be willing to hear it. Otherwise, we'll continue moving on.
Chair, this is Dave Johnson. I would just, if you want to, I can get into a little bit more detail on the license from the City of Phoenix to answer Commissioner Olson's questions. It's not mine, but I can help answer those questions that she had.
I think we'll likely need those from the department unless the commissioner has any questions or would like to hear it.
No, the department's answer is sufficient. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Author, same goes for you.
No, we would object to any conditional approval recommended by Mr. Sims. That really doesn't cover the main issue, which is that this contract is improper. Whatever contract they've signed with Turf Paradise is a breach of the existing lease that we have until 2024. And to conditionally approve it on some basis of whether the City of Phoenix approves the permit, which we had to go through when we obtained it initially, was really just an alternative reason for us to argue that you deny this this motion. But the primary point we're making and the primary legal issue we've stated several times, and that is that we have an existing lease.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Any motions or comments from my fellow commissioners?
Chair, I'll make a motion. I'd like to make a motion to continue this action item to the next meeting. Have full and informed information before making a decision, including but not limited to the information from the city.
I didn't hear the last part. Sorry.
Just, I'd like to have full and informed information, including but not limited to approval from the city of Phoenix.
Right. I'll second that.
Thank you. I have a motion by Commissioner Olson and a second by Commissioner Gray. I will call the roll. Chair Coolidge.
Yes.
Commissioner Olson
Yes.
and Commissioner Gray.
Yes.
Thank you. That motion passes.
Just as a follow-up on that, I hope everyone now understands, which this is exactly why 3 meetings ago, I said publicly and will continue to vote no on all new and existing and revised off-track betting locations. The back and forth that we're going to continue to see on the tit for tat on these racetracks is embarrassing. So hope you guys can get your acts together and figure it out moving forward. Mr. Author, your mic is still live. Thank you. We'll move
Sorry
to
about that.
The simulcast agreements for 4A, Arizona Downs, Fauner Park, and Remington Park.
Chair, do we need to do the American
Oh,
Greyhound?
excuse me. Yes, ma'am. Thank you. We'll move to C3, request for American Greyhound Racing off-track betting facility. Padre Murphy's. Does the department have all the prerequisite information, and otherwise assuming we're going to have an issue with this one?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. They are in the same situation as Turf is. I'm trying to confirm with the city of Phoenix on whether their approval is still valid or not. I'm still waiting on the phone call from the city of Phoenix to make sure that their approval is still valid.
Thank you, sir. Madam Commissioner, do you have a motion you'd like to move?
Yes, I'd like to move to continue action item C3 so that the commission has full and informed information before making our decision, including but not limited to official approval from the city of Phoenix.
I think Aaron had raised his hand before we went into a motion.
You want to hold that? Madam Commissioner, let's hold your motion. Mr. Feinberg, go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, Director Casillas, Aaron Feinberg on behalf of American Greyhound Racing. I guess I'm just a little confused. I hate to get roped into the Arizona Downs Turf Paradise component of this. This is not a change in provider. This is, we've been at this location uninterrupted since December of 1993. We've submitted the contract with Mr. Gill. He signed the contract. Our city of Phoenix approval has never changed. It's never wavered regarding any ownership change. We're happy to go through the process, but I quite frankly don't think it applies to us in this specific situation. We can certainly, again, provide approvals, but it's just delaying the inevitable. There's no competitor. We're not talking about the same issue that the previous item was. I'm happy to answer any questions, but like I said, it's 29 years we've been here, and there's no competitor trying to come in. So I guess I'm just confused.
Mr. Feinberg, I think I'll speak for some of the other commissioners here, saying that I think one of the major concerns is that we don't have all the appropriate documents provided to us by the department. So should and when we get those, we would be interested in reviewing and then moving forward.
But I think that's a little bit, and that's a question I have, since this is basically Phoenix Greyhound Park has been the provider for all these years. I don't know why on this case we would need the city of Phoenix's approval again for something that's been the same all these years. And I would hope that maybe Rudy could chime in a little bit on this, or if this is what we're doing now going forward.
Mr. Director, do you have a comment?
I tend to agree with Commissioner Gray on the matter, and I believe that's why we had it on the agenda. However, in our due diligence, we always try to verify with the city of Phoenix to confirm the approvals.
Mr. Johnson, I see you have your hand raised again. Do you need a input?
Well, I would like to speak on behalf of American Greyhound Racing, and this is kind of what I wanted to speak about for Turf Paradise. It's important to know that OTB permits issued by the city of Phoenix are for the permittee to operate at an OTB, not for an OTB to have the off-track betting through a specific permittee. Aaron's license through the city of Phoenix is good, and for the duration of what it was requested for by him, just as our license through the city of Phoenix is good for 3 years. But Aaron's license is good. You guys, that I can vouch for that.
Chairman, this is Brian from the Arizona Department of Gaming, if I may speak as well.
Yes, sir. Please do.
Yes, I agree with what Aaron and Dave are both saying is that for American Greyhound Racing, it is and has been valid in the past. All I'm going to try and do is confirm and make sure from what I got talking to the lower people, that is what they're telling me is yes, it should be good. All I'm waiting for them is to call me back and say, yes, they are still good. They didn't have time to look at the moment, but we're going to call me back. But did verbally tell me they should be good.
Understood. Thank you, sir. Mr. Feinberg, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you again. And I do appreciate all the support. It's nice to see a couple people working together. So thanks for helping me in this action. Again, I just ask that you approve it because we have been there forever. And when there was the disruption in service, we were still there with Larry Delaney. We were there with Dave. We're there with Dave Gill. We have the new contract. So I really don't think it's like kind. I completely understand Commissioner Olson's motion to table this, but I just don't think it's necessary personally. And I think just we're not talking about the same thing. Again, happy to answer any questions, but we've been licensed, we continue to be licensed, and there's no one else trying to come in. I think it's just one less thing that Mr. Gill needs to worry about right now is the fear of potentially losing the dog signal when there's no one threatening to come in.
Understood. Thank you, sir. Madam Commissioner, do you have a comment?
Yeah, I just want to thank everyone for your comments on that and the clarifications. I'd like to make a motion for an executive session.
Second.
Thank you. I have a motion for executive session by Commissioner Olson, a second by Chair Coolidge. I will call the roll. Commissioner Olson,
Yes.
Commissioner Gray,
Yes.
and Chair Coolidge.
Yes.
Thank you. That motion passes. It looks like all commissioners are in attendance. I will call the roll. Chair Coolidge,
Present.
Commissioner Gray,
Present.
and Commissioner Olson.
Present.
Thank you. The time is 11:36 and we will resume open session.
Appreciate all the input from the parties. Mr. Feinberg, I see your hand is raised. Is that new? Or?
Yeah. Again, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just sent Brian Duncan and Director Casillas a copy of our license. They have it in their email. It's with the county. It's also, but on the license, it says the address of the location that we've paid for. It doesn't say an owner's name on it. It just says the address of the location. So I'd ask if they could look at that and circulate that to you. It may just help you in your decision. That's all. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Appreciate you sending that along and look forward to reviewing it. Any comments or motions from my commissioners? And we're going to table the initial one.
Yeah, Chair, I'll withdraw my initial motion. I'd like to appreciate all the comments from everyone and the clarifications. It sounds like this is a different circumstance based on the continued and single operation. So I'd like to make a motion to approve action items 3, the request from American Greyhound Racing for off-track betting facility at Padre Murphy's.
I'll second that. Well, go ahead. Give that one to Commissioner Gore, please.
Thank you. I have a motion to approve action item C3 from Commissioner Olson and a second by Commissioner Garay. I will call the roll. Chair Coolidge,
Yes.
Commissioner Garay,
Yes.
and Commissioner Olson.
Yes.
Thank you. That motion is passes.
We'll move to action item C4, the simulcast agreements pursuant to ARS 5-112U for Arizona Downs for Fawner Park and Remington Park. Mr. Duncan.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. I have supplied and reviewed the contracts and all is in order. The division does recommend the 5112U contracts be approved for items C4A, 1, and 2 for Arizona Downs.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Author, have you signed to speak? Do you have anything you need to add on this?
No, I never like to say anything when we win.
Any questions or concerns from my fellow commissioners? Otherwise, I'll move that we approve the simulcast agreement for Arizona Downs on Fawner Park and Remington Park.
Second.
Thank you. I have a motion by Chair Coolidge and a second by Commissioner Garay. I will call the roll. Chair Coolidge,
Yes.
Commissioner Garay,
Yes.
and Commissioner Olson.
Yes.
Thank you. Those simulcast agreements for Arizona Downs are approved.
We'll move to 4B, simulcast agreements pursuant to ARS 5-112U for Turf Paradise's Fawner Park.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, again, I did supply and review all the contracts. They do all look to be in order. The division also would recommend that the 5112U contracts be approved for item C4B1 for Turf Paradise as well.
Everything looks to be in order. I'll move that we approve Turf Paradise's Fawner Park simulcast agreement.
Second.
Thank you. I have a motion by Chair Coolidge and a second by Commissioner Garay. I will call the roll. Chair Coolidge,
Yes.
Commissioner Garay,
Yes.
and Commissioner Olson.
Yes.
Thank you. The simulcast agreement for Turf Paradise is approved.
Move down to 5A, the simulcast horse racing import signals pursuant to IHA section 3004A3 for Arizona Downs, Fawner Park, and Remington Park. Everything looks to be in order besides the U. But Mr. Duncan, you have anything to add on that?
Yes, sir. So under the C5A1 for Arizona Downs on item 1, it is still missing the host commission document. And it was missing your approval, but you just approved that. And then item 2 is still missing the host commission, host horseman approval documents. And the 5112U, which again, you just approved. The division, as always, would make sure we collect all the documents before we give them the permission to operate their signal. And then I guess with that, that the division would recommend both items for Arizona Downs be approved, pending the rest of the documentation being received from the permittee.
Yes, sir. Thank you for bringing that to my attention. Any questions from my fellow commissioners?
No questions, but I did just want to bring up a reminder. I think a few meetings ago, myself and Mr. Johnson did talk about getting to a point where the tracks, they know what signals they're going to be carrying throughout the year, of maybe getting earlier in the year, just getting all the tracks conditionally approved pending the proper paperwork. So we're not going through this meeting after meeting after meeting.
Yes, Commissioner Gray. I have talked to Dave a few times on this. I do need to get with Arizona's representative and get some ideas from them. But I do appreciate that, and I would recommend that we, try and get that done as quick as we can, but it would help in the long run.
Thank you.
I'll move that we conditionally approve Arizona Downs simulcasting horse racing import signal for Fauner Park and Remington Park, provided they submit all of the required action items and allow the department to approve those, expedite them moving forward so we don't see a delay in service.
Second.
Thank you. I have a motion by Chair Coolidge and a second by Commissioner Garay. I will call the roll. Chair Coolidge,
Yes.
Commissioner Garay,
Yes.
and Commissioner Olson.
Yes.
Thank you. The simulcast horse racing import signals for Arizona Downs are conditionally approved.
We'll move to 5B, Turf Paradise's Fauner Park. Mr. Duncan.
Yes, sir. The only one for turf was missing the 5112U contract approval, which you just approved. Other than that, everything, all documents have been turned in, and the department does recommend approval.
Thank you, sir. Any comments from my commissioners? That said, I'll move that we approve Turf Paradise's Fauner Park simulcast agreement, import signal.
Second.
Thank you. I have a motion by Chair Coolidge and a second by Commissioner Olson. I will call the roll. Chair Coolidge,
Yes.
Commissioner Gray,
Yes.
and Commissioner Olson.
Yes.
Thank you. Those horse racing import signals are approved.
We'll move down to D1, which are the track safety reports. Dr. Gale, I know you just gave us one, but I know there's a lot to follow up on after the last meeting, so look forward to your report today.
Actually, I may be fairly brief this meeting, and am looking to have the safety meeting we talked about at the last meeting next week. I'm contacting the principal stakeholders and trying to arrange a date. Racing Monday through Friday makes it a bit of a challenge, but now that the post time is 12:55, we may be able to get a meeting in the late morning, and then I should be able to bring more information to you in March. Just currently for the Turf Paradise meet, since the beginning in November, there have been 11 horses that have been suffered catastrophic injuries on the racetrack during races. And that out of about 3,700 entries, or starts rather, that comes to a rate of about 2.98 per thousand. So again, it's creeping up a little bit. The one thing I have noticed and will mention is that I am finding we are scratching more horses on pre-race exam. It does seem that now we're about halfway through the meet. Some of the horses are showing some wear and tear. And so again, that's the purpose of the pre-race exam, is to do our best to identify horses that are at higher risk for injury. I will probably let Rory, Commissioner Gray, talk about the meeting he did have with the horsemen last Wednesday. They had a listening session. The one thing that I will mention specifically is that there needs to be a greater presence of veterinarians or some type of administrative assistance, so that we can do a better job of identifying horses that are at risk prior to doing the exam. last year, or I should say in the beginning of 2021, Dr. Scott Waterman, who's a consultant with the department, equine medical advisor, would go through each race day and compare several risk factors, ownership changes, performance or performances, vet list entries, injections, and then rate the horses, either yellow for caution on horses that had some factors in their history that deserve greater scrutiny, and red flag, of course, horses that had many risk factors in their history. An assistant who could go through, I try to go through as I do each day. We prepare a roster of examinations, and I do try to identify horses that have been on the vet list or have some other reason that might put them at a greater level of risk regarding injury. Again, having someone on the staff that can do this on a more regular basis and more complete, because it took Dr. Waterman about 4 hours to go through a race card last year to identify the risk factors. And I spend at least an hour a night after the races are over to try to do the same thing. But my efforts are incomplete. With that, I would turn it over to either Brian or Commissioner Gorey. Or be happy to take any questions you might have also.
Thank you, ma'am. Just before we hand it over to Commissioner Gorey, I just wanted to say how much I appreciate him stepping up. It's unfortunate that there are only 3 commission members on this commission, and that, I'm sure Commissioner Olson and myself would be more than willing to spend some more time to make sure that this is a priority. And Commissioner Gorey is always the first one to step up and sometimes step out when he feels things aren't going the right way when it comes to health in these dogs and horses. So appreciate you, Commissioner Gorey, and thanks for going to that meeting for us. Look forward to a quick update from you on it.
Mr.
Sure,
Chairman,
thank you.
may be heard, please.
Mr. Director, go ahead, sir.
Yes, along with Dr. Gale's comments, we recently had a couple meetings, and I've asked Dr. Gale to start requiring the horsemen to submit updated veterinary medical records of every horse that is entered. That way the veterinarians can review those medical reports of each horse that is entered to race and get a better sound picture of that horse's capability and physical status and medical status. They can determine based on those medical records what type of injuries or medications the horses have been undertaking, and make a better assessment with their pre-race exams. So that will be implemented coming forth, and hopefully it makes a difference.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Gorey.
Just one quick question for Dr. Gill. Horse like creative plan, that would not end up in our statistics, correct?
I actually have included that horse because it was injured during a race and then was put to sleep or euthanized this past week. And then there was another horse that had been injured during training early in the year. That doesn't factor into the rate statistic, but it does in the total number. That horse had a fracture in the fetlock, and the trainer tried to rehab the horse. Efforts were unsuccessful, and that horse was euthanized here about 3 months later.
All right, thank you. And, with that said, on creative plan, watching everything that was going on, I think we've got to do a better job of coming up with answers and coming up with solutions. Seemed like with creative plan, there was a lot of finger pointing going on and trying to cover our own butts. We've got to do a better job of coming up with solutions. And I do want to thank the director for that, what he just spoke about there. It was something that we talked about after the last meeting. I think it was one of the items from the Pennsylvania Commission that they had talked about implementing. But as Dr. Gill did mention, I had a meeting last week with the horsemen on the backside. A lot of great discussion going back and forth. I think we do have some ideas to work on. I have had a meeting with Vince Francia already to discuss some things, and I do think one of the things Vince has added into the overnights is about the horses going to slaughterhouses. I think that should help. And also we've had some discussion about the biggest thing I've heard besides the water content on the track was also the claiming rules that we have going on there at Turf Paradise. It seems like every morning I wake up and read the board and find out that there's a horse that's moved on from it's just wandering around on the backside. And I think that's because these horses are getting claimed so much, they don't know where they live. But I do know I've had some discussion with Director Casillas about the claiming rules. I know he was going to talk to the AG and see what we might be able to do. So I'm hopeful that here in the near future, we will be able to, as a commission, talk about some of these solutions and ideas and make Arizona the light it needs to be, that we're making the change, doing the right thing, instead of being the laughing stock that we are right now nationwide, where you just keep reading the reports. The eyes are on us. It's not just Turf Paradise, it's all of us. The eyes are on us. So thank you for everyone that's been offering suggestions. And the other one I did forget was third-party LASIX. I think we do need to really work on that. And I don't know if that's something that can be done via house rule or what, but that is an item. And I think Dr. Gale, you could speak on it a little bit, that we need to address.
Yeah, just to clarify for those who don't quite know what the term third-party LASIX means, in current operations here in Arizona are that the veterinarians who practice on the backside can give LASIX. That's by rule. That's the only contact they can have with a horse that is racing, say today, is to give LASIX. And then there's other regulations that control how that's done and reporting requirements. Third-party LASIX would be a veterinarian that does not practice on the racehorses at the track. And the only responsibility that veterinarian has is to give pre-race LASIX. We had a situation earlier in the year where that was almost exclusively the case. There have been other veterinarians entering into the picture, and it has created some issues that I am looking to deal with.
Thank you very much. We'll move to item D2, which is the budget report. Mr. LaForest,
Commissioner Coolidge, this is Director Vogt.
Yes, sir. The floor is yours.
May I be heard on the previous item before we move on?
Absolutely.
I just want to refresh the commission's memory that we've also, in this budget session, our number one funding issue is for an additional vet and vet tech. It's been our number one funding issue for the past two fiscal years. So we're hopeful that it will get across the line this year, but just wanted to remind you that that's what the department put forward in the executive budget.
Yes, sir. Thank you for the reminder. We know that's always a priority for the department and hope that we can get it done this year. We'll move to item D2, speaking of budgets, the budget report. Mr. LaForest. Or Director Casillas.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. I have not been notified by our CFO that there's any concerns with the budget at this time.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Guessman, any updates since last week on the Horse Racing Integrity Act?
Wendy Hobson from Arizona HBPA for Leroy Guessman.
ma'am.
He has nothing new to report on the HISA. He does want to remind everybody that the judge will hear oral arguments tomorrow, and he will hopefully have a new update for the next meeting.
Appreciate that. Thank you, ma'am.
Yes, thank you.
Move to D4, the Permittee Reports, American Greyhound Racing.
Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, just wanted to say thank you again for the earlier approval. I appreciate that, and no other update. Thank you.
Thanks for jumping on that and helping inform us and sending over the contract as well. I haven't seen it pop over yet, but I'm sure we will. So thank you for that, sir. Arizona Downs.
Thank you, Chairman Coolidge. It's Tom Author. Just a brief update. We continue to pull together all the resources we need to approach the commission for racing dates for 2022. Tonight I have a meeting with the horsemen. So I wish I could say something now, but we want to be very careful. For example, we want to make sure we have the right amount of effort put into the track surface so that we can maybe even improve on last year's one racing death. That's important to us, and that takes time, takes money. So it's issues like that. But we're optimistic that for the next meeting, we'll have all of our information in and put it in front of you folks to determine whether or not you'll give us the race dates. Other than that, I really don't have anything to add.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
County Fairs.
This is Dominique Valenzuela with Cochise County Fair. May I speak?
Yes, ma'am.
We are trying to get race dates in line. I need to get in touch with Brian Duncan, and I am working with Sonoida. So we are trying to do live racing this year. So we will be submitting applications.
Sounds great. Thank you, ma'am. Let us know if you need any help getting a hold of the department, but look forward to seeing that come across the table here.
Thank you.
Rito. Tucson Greyhound Park.
Hi there. I hope my microphone works. I never use this thing.
Yes, ma'am.
But, I want to thank you, commissioners, and the chairman for allowing me to speak. I just want to bring up one thing that Aaron, I believe, brought up last time, was licenses. We're having a hard time finding out who needs to be renewed. Luckily, I have a spreadsheet from Carlos from last year, but we weren't being sent out licenses that we could even look for expiration dates. So far this year, I've sent in 15 renewals along with 15 checks for my employees that I knew were expiring. None of those checks have been cashed. I haven't received any licenses back, or they haven't received any licenses back, or any questions or anything on their license renewal. I also have no clue when my OTB owners are expiring, and was wondering that if I can send them over to Rillito, are they going to be doing licensing at Rillito? Because it's very expensive for these people to go out and get individual fingerprints at UPS stores. They're running between $45 and $50 a piece just for the fingerprint cards. So I just wanted to put that out there.
Appreciate it. Thank you for bringing that to our attention. Any questions?
No, I was just curious if the department can state whether they will be doing licensing at Rillito.
Mr. Commissioner, we will be doing licensing at Rillito.
Do we have dates?
Brian, can you address that, please?
Yes, at this time, we do not have any dates. I'll be coming out with those as soon as possible. Since they were just approved, I will let you guys know.
Thank you.
Thank you. Turf Paradise.
Chairman Coolidge, Commissioners, thank you for allowing me to speak. Let me address a couple things that are of interest to everyone on the commission, the department, and our horsemen. Let me start with the main track, what's being done this week. Steve Wood, our consultant, is in and on the grounds, so he'll be assisting track superintendent Ralph. And what we're doing this week is the organics are being added as well as sand. Well, what do the organics do? One thing the organics do is they give the track bounce. The other thing, which is important, is they help to keep the moisture within the track. That brings up water. That's of a concern to horsemen as it is jockeys, of getting the right amount of water out there at all time. The sand helps break up the clay has a tendency to ball up. The sand helps to, when we add it in the right amount, it breaks up those clods so they're not flying back at the riders or the horses. The turf course, we raced the turf last Friday, 2 stakes. We will do again this Friday, 2 stake races, and then we will be back on the turf for a regular meet. We will be back on the turf to finish the meet with 2 races planned on the turf every day. A quick look at the business of racing. As of yesterday, there were 441 claims. That is a record here at Turf Paradise. And that is decidedly the result of when you have a purse structure like we have, a lot of claiming is going to go on. The purses through the first 68 days of the meet, for a little more than halfway through the meet, we're averaging about 19,000 per race. And the average purse payout is 153, almost 154,000 per day, as compared to 110,000 in the previous meet. So that's a healthy sign. That, of course, is due to the supplemental purses coming from the federal government and from the state of Arizona. Another thing of concern to the horsemen is the speaker situation and some of the stable areas that will be completed this weekend and tested on Sunday. Part of the delay is the gentleman who was contracted to do this has had some personal matters that he's had to deal with, but he's now back on board. A comment going forward, twofold. One is when we're talking about fatalities at the racetrack, we really do need to separate out those fatalities that are occurring during racing, those that occur during training, and those that have occurred due to other matters, colic or a barn accident, something like that. The reason being, I just completed an article, reading an article in the Pollock report this morning. It just came out, and it lists our fatalities as 22. That is giving the impression that we have had 22 breakdowns leading to fatalities either in training or racing, and that's not correct. We need to separate these statistics out. Lastly, I look forward to continuing work with Commissioner Goray and other commissioners as well, feel to participate, to take on some of the tough issues that are facing race today. If anything, creative plan has been the great wake-up call for all of us, and this is an opportunity for us to get us right. Thank you, Chairman Coolidge, Commissioners, for allowing me to speak. Questions, I will answer if you have any.
Actually, I don't have a question. I just wanted to give a shout out to a job well done. Your security guard the other night on the south gate, when I pulled into the backside and I showed my badge, he was questioning it because I still carry the old Department of Racing badge. So he, good job. He actually looked at it. I had to explain to him that I just refused to change over, but maybe I guess I should, because I might get questioned again in the future.
The security officers here have denied me permission into the backstretch because I might forget my license. Yeah, they're excellent. So is the security director. Thank you, Commissioner.
Mr. Mayor, thank you, sir. We'll move to the industry stakeholder optional updates. Arizona Counties Racing Association. Arizona Quarter Horse Racing Association. I know we just did these a week or two ago, so there might not be new updates. Arizona Thoroughbreeders Association. HBPA.
Commissioners, Chairman and Commissioners, this is Wendy Hudson again for Leroy Guessman. He has nothing to report at this time.
Thank you, ma'am. Jockeys Guild. We'll move to commission reports. I had this slated to talk about how great Commissioner Gore is, but I already did that, so I'm going to leave that for another day. Any of my other commissioners have any updates or anything they'd like to put on the action agenda for next month?
I don't know if for the next month, but at some point in time, would like to hear from the folks who do horse adoption and just hear from them what their challenges are, how well they're doing, and if there's anything we as commissioners could work on to help improve horse adoption.
Understood. Talk to the department, see if we can make that happen, Commissioner. Otherwise, other matters to be placed on future agendas is a Sims versus Sims update for our executive session line.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I've emailed the attorney representing the commission asking about her availability for the March meeting. I have not heard back from the attorney at this point. I will continue to make efforts to make that contact with her to verify that meeting date.
Thank you, sir. I don't have anyone scheduled to speak for call to the public. The next regularly scheduled commission meeting.
Chair Coolidge, pardon to interrupt.
That's not true.
I have a Dino Herrera signed up to speak. Sorry, Chair Coolidge.
Go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Commissioners. I'm a horse owner in 3 states, but more importantly, I'm a longtime horse player living year-round in Scottsdale. Lots of friends in the horse racing community through the country. We haven't had the Monarch signal since December 2019, and I don't hear it come up in many of your meetings. At the January 24th, 2020 meeting, you guys posted that ongoing efforts are being made to resolve this matter, and that your racing commission will provide new information as it becomes available. That was over 2 years ago. The racing commission hasn't made this resolution an urgent issue, in my opinion. This is a signal that the horse players want, the public wants. It's not our job to work this out with Belinda, Stronach, and Monarch. So on behalf of the horse players, please take ownership of this and put it on your agenda from time to time. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Secretary, any others that you have on yours that I don't have on mine?
No, I do not.
The next regularly scheduled commission meeting will be at 10 a.m. on Thursday, March 10th, 2022, likely via Google Meet and subject to change based on quorum. With that, I will hear any motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Thank you. I have a motion by Chair Coolidge and a second by Commissioner Gore. I will call the roll. Chair Coolidge?
Yes.
Commissioner Gore?
Yes.
And Commissioner Olson?
Yes.
Thank you. The time is 12:10 and this meeting is adjourned.